Thursday, the 16th of January 2025. I'm joined today by Aspire and Thrive leads and owners, Cameron Balford and Dave Hughes. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Jack. Thank you for having us.
Morning.
No worries. So today we're going to talk about Aspire and Thrive and look at the journey that you guys have been on together, where Aspire and Thrive is now, and what it looks like moving forward. So, Dave, can I just start with you just to give a brief kind of introduction of yourself and what Aspire and Thrive looks like to you, please?
For sure. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us on, Jack. So my name's Dave Hughes. I've had the privilege and pleasure of working with children, young people and families for probably around 18 years in my experience, working for local authorities, public sector, third sector, private sector organisations across that timescale, which has been a really positive experience, really interesting journey. That journey has enabled me and all of our colleagues at Aspire and Thrive to think about what more we can do for our young people as they become young adults, what perhaps is more tricky in navigating their young adulthood, and things that probably could become problematic or get in the way in their education and their learning. So Aspire and Thrive came to being from a sense of all of that reflection, and we created an alternative provision. It's a therapeutic alternative provision, so we work a lot with yourself, Jack, and Dr. Liz at Connect 2, who helped us with our clinical model, which all of our colleagues have had training in, which means that everything we do, the reason we approach things, the way we reflect and consider and think and work through the things that get in the way is underpinned by really good research, really good understanding and a really robust model. That enables us to work safely in a contained way with our children. It helps our practice be well thought through. So Aspire and Thrive is there to support children who need a bit more help around education. We have some structured courses, we have some bespoke approaches, but all of those things are therapeutically contained.
That's amazing, and I really appreciate and understand from conversations we've had what Aspire and Thrive looks like at the present. What does Dave Hughes' history look like in working in children's services for obviously the viewers watching?
Thank you. Yeah, so as I said, I've had the privilege and the pleasure to work with children and young people for upwards of 18 years. I first began working in sort of detached street-based youth work, which is a really important part of working with children and young people, because they might not be accessing clubs, they might not have somewhere to go, something to do or someone to talk to, so it's a real important element of reaching young people contextually, which is something that I think is really important in terms of keeping children safe when they're away from the home. Following on from that experience, I was able to work in different youth work roles in local authority, in youth justice, in social care, in early help, which was a great experience for me. That enabled me to go and work for another local authority in the West Midlands, work on case reviews, deliver training, provide advice and guidance for children, young people and families. And then after that I went to work in the private sector, so did a lot of work in secure training centres, or what sometimes are termed as prisons where young people would attend, or just prior to finding themselves perhaps needing support and help in youth offending institutes. And that's where Jack and I first met. Some people will say, did you meet in prison? We didn't meet. we weren't.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Not in the negative sense of the word, but we were both working there helping children and young people, and that's how we met many moons ago. Also, I had the opportunity to work in the private sector and the third sector. Some of that included work in homes for children, where Jack and I also subsequently worked together in therapeutic environments, and after all that time I was able to become a home manager, responsible individual, and have my own businesses, provide training and inspection services and consultancy. And then from that experience, Jack and I have come together with an organisation called Pinnacle Centre of Excellence, which is a social care training provider. We work with homes for children, schools, education, early help services up and down the country, and that is also a real huge support in the work we do at Aspire and Thrive, which is where we are now.
No, that's amazing, and again, vast amount of experience that you've gathered over the years, and again, just through speaking from personal situations here, having you involved with my other business is obviously very important to me. And again, just when you talk there about the knowledge you have, it is phenomenal in supporting young people and also adults that work with young people. Cam, moving on to you. Give us a little bit of information about who Cam is. We've obviously got Dave, who is the owner director, and you kind of run everything on the floor for Aspire and Thrive as such, don't you? So can you tell us a bit about yourself, Cam, and kind of your journey?
Well, obviously I'm slightly different to Dave in my journey. I mean, my journey's predominantly been professional football from the age of, I'd say, since I left school, was my full-time job until probably the age of 30. And I think along the way, you know, I'd worked in the community with every club I'd been at, which is a vast amount of clubs. I'm not going to go through that because we'll be here forever. But working with the community, working with the academies at the clubs I've been at, working around children. And also I think the experiences from the football industry, and it might look glamorous on the outside to a lot of people, but as you know, Jack, yourself, and being around football from your experience, it teaches you a lot of life lessons. You know, there's a lot of things involved in football that, you know, held me certainly in good stead, has been able to pass them experiences on to the children I work with. You know, you have to deal with a lot of disappointment in football. Yeah. You have to deal with a lot of anger, probably resentment. You have to deal with people telling you you're not good enough. Yeah. You know, different opinions, and you have to build up that kind of resilience to deal with that. And I think now with a lot of children we work with, you know, that resilience is a massive factor in what we do and how we deliver our sessions, and what tends to be lacking.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so from my point of view, from the football, I took a lot from that. And as it got towards the end of, you know, my full-time football career, I thought, you know, this is something I'd like to get into and working with the children. And then I then went into schools, first like teaching assistant, SEMH schools, so social, emotional, mental health schools, working a lot alongside SEND. And that progressed from there. I ended up teaching into lessons, and then I moved from there into alternative provisions, and then one-to-one mentoring. And that's when, you know, me and Dave had the discussion, and obviously knowing Dave previously, being around Dave, and then having the discussion with Dave, and as you can tell today, his knowledge is vast, and he's got a lot to offer to this industry and this sector. And it was, you know, something that got me really excited to come on board with. And as you say, where we are now, in terms of where the discussions were, we are moving at a very, very positive rate, in a really, really good direction. And I think, you know, the way we operate and the model we've got and the approach we have with our children is something that we felt was very much needed in this industry, and something we can very, very much, you know, feel as if we can offer a really, really good, in a really, really good place. So I guess from my point of view, in my role in the company is to oversee that, as you say, on the ground, and make sure it is running smoothly, and what we say we do, we actually do, and we deliver. You know, making sure that all runs smoothly. You know, we're building up really, really good relationships with schools and local authorities, and we are delivering sessions that are really, really positive for our young people, which is the crux of what we do, and ultimately that's what we're here for, to deliver that to our children and make sure they have the best experiences they can, and provide, you know, a lot of the time that safe place, you know, that place for them to experience new things, to experience things that they haven't potentially before, to relearn a lot of things, you know, and relearn different responses, you know, how to conduct themselves emotionally, socially, you know, develop them communication skills, and just be able to react differently in a more positive way than they used to, because we found, obviously, a lot of children we work with that they come from very, very traumatic backgrounds. You know, they've experienced a lot of things that a lot of people don't, and their responses are limited. So we have to almost relearn them, or, you know, give them the opportunity to respond in a better way that is conducive to them having a better life, a better childhood, and a better life moving forward.
So I think you raised some unbelievably great points within what you're talking about there, and through coming to train with Dr. Liz and train the Aspire and Thrive team and the Connect 2 model, I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with obviously you two and the staff team that you've got. You've brought a fantastic team together there, I've got to say, through training in a couple of different areas with yours. Going back to the football and looking when we're looking at staffing, do you think your journey within football impacts maybe how you can best work with children, maybe things you recognise that other people may not, or maybe things you've been through? You spoke a couple of times there about resilience and things like that. Do you think being in them sporting environments kind of gives you that kind of extra bit of knowledge, maybe working with these young people because of the disappointments and struggles that you may have had?
I think so. And you speak to most people in football, and unless you're at the top level of football and you're most successful footballers in the world and play for the most successful teams and managers, the negatives far outweigh the positives in football. You know, there's a lot more downs than there are ups. So to being able to manage that and deal with that, and you feed onto the fact of the controllables as well. You know, what you can and can't control. And in football, especially in my position, it was different because I'm a goalkeeper, and it's a predominantly one position focused position, and your training and the way you conduct yourself in games and the way you approach games is different to the outfield players. So I almost had to, along the way, I'd say, what I did, and I made a point of working with, because you're working with so many different types of people, from like management roles to, you know, the chairman, that you're dealing with interactions with fans, you have different types of players, and they all come from numerous different backgrounds. And I think, to answer your question, I think that does help in terms of being able to deal with different types of situations with different types of kids from numerous backgrounds, numerous different issues that they have, and being able to deal with that accordingly.
And I think it just, again, going back to the training that I've done with your team, I think they respond so well to the approach that you guys have. It feels caring, it feels nurturing, it feels honest, it feels authentic. And again, I know through business that we do together, Dave, with Pinnacle, these are values we hold in a high stead, because realistically, we want the staff that work alongside us, our colleagues, to share their values and knowledge.
I think on that point as well, Jack, it's important to have a different array of staff that can offer different things, because as we know in this industry, one size doesn't tick all boxes. And there's a lot of different needs with a lot of different kids. So we have to be able to facilitate those kids in different ways. So, you know, we'll have, you know, we try to get a balance where our staff members, although we are trained and underpinned by a certain model, they are able to deliver that or deliver something else on the back of that in a different way that's more appropriate for that child that we work with, which I think is massive. So to be able to have that and make sure our staff are aware of that, and they've got all the tools they need to be able to conduct their deliverance of sessions properly, then we are moving in the right direction.
No, I absolutely agree. And Dave, coming from obviously your side of things, overseeing Aspire and Thrive, what's the direction the company's going in at the minute? What do things look like for the near future for Aspire and Thrive?
Yeah, that's a really exciting question, because as Cameron mentioned a moment ago, Aspire and Thrive, the thinking about it started some time ago, but Aspire and Thrive as a real live organisation started back end of October 2024, so relatively young, relatively new organisation. And I think anyone who creates an organisation, starts a business, goes on a journey, tends to learn a lot about that very quickly. Sometimes the things you anticipate, the things you hope for, the things you expect don't always happen in the way that you think they might. But that's part of the journey. You have to enjoy that direction of travel, even though sometimes it can be interesting, it's still got to be exciting. So Aspire and Thrive, where we are now, we provide, and we're very fortunate, I think it's important to say, obviously Jack and I work together in across all of our businesses, but we have an individual business together as well. And that partnership, that collaboration, that relationship allows us at Aspire and Thrive to work really closely with Dr. Liz, with Jack, to work with Jack on the Growth Mindset book, which Jack authored in 2024. So if you haven't bought
Thanks
it,
for plugging that, mate.
get out there and get that. It's yeah,
Top man
absolutely.
camp, love it.
Got a couple of copies on the table, but actually, joking aside, the Growth Mindset book is a hugely positive opportunity for children, young people, and anyone in helping services to assist them with their journeys, because there's a lot of real reflection, learning, growth opportunity within that book. And the great thing for Aspire and Thrive, in partnership with Jack, in collaboration with Jack, is that we've been able to get training with an author of a book in a model, in a practice, in an approach that we can then share with our children and young people. So that's a really unique opportunity for us. Beyond that, we're delivering structured courses and bespoke courses for children and young people. We're working closely with local authorities, closely with a host of schools across the Coventry and Warwickshire area, and actually that area is increasing and branching out into different areas. So we're in early conversations with other local authorities about understanding what their children need, what their aspirations are for their futures, what Aspire and Thrive working in partnership with them would look like, and what their hopes are for our collaboration. So that's a really exciting journey that we're on. We've been really fortunate that we've been successful in some tenders with local authority, which allows us to be approved by them, and that gives confidence to schools, to parents, to carers and guardians that we are a really well structured organisation, that the work we do is of a high quality and it's safe. So for us as an organisation, we're enjoying that. We're enjoying going out and doing what we said we would. We're enjoying having a purpose that's meaningful, and we're enjoying sharing our values and our vision with other organisations who are interested to learn more about it.
No, I really appreciate that answer. And again, I'm so fortunate to be able to work alongside you and see what you're doing, and we have conversations about the growth of Aspire and Thrive. And just as a friend from the outside, I know we have a couple of ventures involved with it, whether it be the book or Connect 2, but just seeing your journey is exciting. I know for me particularly, because Dave, you've known me for many years now. My passion is in development of children, and what you're doing is developing children. Cam, can you tell me what a kind of a morning or a day in the life of a young person looks like that's coming to Aspire and Thrive? Because again, some people may understand the context of kind of alternative provision or something like that, but again, you kind of do things a little bit different to some of the alternative provisions, and again, something that I love. But if we look at from the minute, so you sometimes go out and pick the children up, and so can you just kind of give me what that looks like for the children's perspective?
So obviously the day-to-day of each child changes depending on their individualised bespoke programme, mentoring programme that we come with, or what programme they're accessing in terms of whether they are being transported to venues or whether we're picking them up. But what we do, during our sessions, so our sessions are normally conducted in 3-hour block sessions with that child. So say for your typical child, we provide the transport ourselves, so we'll pick that child up from their home or designated wherever place they live for 9 o'clock. And we found, and we had this discussion, and I found from my experience in working with the children, that time during the travel is a massive point in that intervention. We find that a lot of children, it aids towards building that relationship and that trust with your mentor. It also provides a little safe space for them to open up about any issues they've had the night before, or anything that's gone on, or where they're at. And it's also a chance to put your plan across and give them the plan for that day moving forward. So yeah, we will pick up from the designated venue. We'll then transport them to, because we're community and outreach, there's no such venue for us to conduct our sessions from. Sessions might be conducted out in the community. It might be a chance for them to be around community, see how they conduct themselves in public. There might be places that they're able to go to that serves a purpose for them on that day. But obviously we've identified certain therapeutic venues, Nettle Hill, Hood Lane Farm. We've also got a purposeful venue going up in Arley Fields in North Warwickshire, which we've identified as perfect venues for them to to go to and conduct our practice from. So yeah, and then we also provide food for them. So if it's a morning session, we provide breakfast, and if it's an afternoon session, we provide lunch bags for them, because we also thought again that food is a massive factor in what we do and helps to aid engagement with that child as well. And from our experiences, a lot of the children we work with potentially don't get the right food that they should at home, or if any, some of them sadly in cases. So for us to be able to offer that, I thought was a massive factor. So we implement that in our sessions as well. And as I say, the day-to-day of the sessions can change depending on the need of that child and what they need on that day. So there is no, as I say, there's no one size fits all, but we have to be adaptable, and we are adaptable, and our staff are aware of that. Issues might present themselves in the morning that mean you can't conduct the session at a certain place. They might not be able to be around certain other people at that point. So we have to factor all that in.
Yeah.
But generally we are, our day-to-day sessions are conducted with, our practitioners picking up from homes, dropping off at homes, conducting sessions with them at said venues as and when they see fit.
Just something that you talk about, where I talk about the service being a little bit different to other services, and something that I absolutely love, and you guys will understand this through the Connect 2 model, so that regulate before educate. That journey in the car, and you've just said it there, and through working in children's services for a long time, Dave, it's that kind of sometimes that best work with children is when you haven't got the eye contact, when it is informal. And again, we used to say all the time that we find out so much more about our children and can support our children far better because of these things. And it's like that journey already regulates your child before, because they could be coming from any home as such, couldn't they? Or any difficulties or any struggles.
I mean, I found as well that obviously the process of getting that child to attend sessions sometimes is difficult because of the travel issues.
Yes.
And if they're being, no disrespect to taxi drivers, they do a great job, but sometimes if there's a taxi driver and they're not interacting with that person and they have a chaperone in the car, sometimes that isn't, their safe place, it isn't a place they feel comfortable in. They go, well, I don't want to go in a taxi, so we won't attend that session today. Whereas we cut out that process and we can go, well, we're going to pick you up from your house today, and we're going to build that relationship while we conduct our travel, and we can make it that place for you where you are actually excited to get in that car, to come to our session, to be able to engage properly, conduct yourself properly, and you can get something from it as well. And so can we. And it all works together in that, big effect of everything being conducive to the end goal.
But it is interesting as well, because I think that the whole concept of relationships and connection is a really important part of the training that Jack and Dr. Liz have provided to all of our colleagues through Connect 2, and the model is very much about being the calm in the storm and supporting children, being aware of ourselves. And interestingly, I was at a home for children yesterday doing some training for Pinnacle Centre of Excellence, and during the break someone was saying a young person was having a really tricky time, lots of complexities and layers to their experience, and they were saying actually the other day we were doing some cooking, they were laying on the sofa while I was cooking, we were having a conversation, we were talking, they were laughing. I learned so much about them, and those incidental moments that aren't necessarily planned or scheduled into a diary, or where you sit down across a table, those real human, authentic, relational connections are really important. And for us, as Cameron just said, our colleagues take every opportunity to be really mindful, really aware, really thoughtful about not just what's in the child's best interest, what the opportunities are to invest in those relationships and help those children feel safe and be safe in our spaces.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, and I think if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of need, the two bottom blocks of that pyramid, the basic needs, food, which I mentioned there, we can cover that. Food, warmth, we can offer them warmth. We've got venues and spaces that they can feel warm in. Water, rest. Sometimes I've conducted sessions out with kids and they've had a really traumatic night before. They might have been out, with the friends, they've got into trouble, they've come back, there's been, shouting going on in the house. They haven't slept all night. Sometimes in a session, that first hour of the session, you might get that child in and say, they might need that sleep for an hour.
Yeah.
If you find them a warm space, the therapeutic spaces we've got, where, we've got low lighting, we've got bean bags, we've got real sense of, security and safeness. If they can be there for an hour and fall asleep for an hour, and that's what they need at that point, that's what they need, and that's good for them. Then for the next 2 hours, you might be able to really engage with them, and because you provided that safe place for them to rest, You know, it helps build that relationship, and then they can engage further. And then you move on to, you know, the next level, safety, security. You know, if we can offer them basic needs from the start that possibly are lacking in some areas within their lives, then we've already started on that ladder. So everything I mentioned there in terms of a day, you know, if we can, in a roundabout way, offer as much as that as we can to that child, then there's no reason why this relationship, this partnership cannot be positive.
And let me tell you what I love about that is we look at. So I was working with I was training yesterday for the Voluntary Reduction Partnership, and that was I won't talk about where I was training. However, the conversation come up about children leaving home from maybe a traumatic household where there's issues, where there's things going on, maybe mum's suffering abuse or there's violence in the house. This young person goes to school, they're maybe a little erratic in their behaviour because they're obviously in their survival brain still. And the answer for the school is to send them to isolation. Like that.
And we find that a lot,
In that, for me, just when you think about the word isolation, so this child's going through trauma and we're going to isolate them from everyone. It's horrendous. But what I love about what you're talking about is you're going completely the other way. You're actually going, what does the child need? How can we regulate the child? And this is the thing that I sometimes say to Dave. I think working in children's services, children's homes especially, for as long as we did, it feels like it's a few steps ahead of school in the sense of nurture and care. School's brilliant educationally, no issues with it in the sense of your English, maths and science. I think there could be a lot more life skill stuff. However, I think what you talk about, like, I just love it, because the fact that you recognise that actually we could probably get 2 hours amazing work from this child if we just let them rest. Like, I don't think there's enough adults out there that acknowledge this. So just like I say, to have my book running alongside what you're doing, again, there'll be companies that come to me that I won't allow them to use the book, because again, I have to believe in the service that they're offering. Because again, the book's only as good as you guys allow delivering it. And it just, for me, just the fact that you recognise, you go and pick children up, you recognise, do you know what, we may want to complete this course, but actually what's in the child's best interest?
How do we get there to complete this course? You know what I mean? There's steps along the way. You can't just go in and go, right, we're going to sit this child down, we're going to go through every single page of this book. You know what I mean? Because that's, you know, ultimately, they're out of education. Sometimes in education, that's probably what is lacking. The steps to get to the point where they are engaging in their massive English lessons aren't there. That's why you find they're out in isolation, or they're walking the corridors and they're being sent out, because there's the steps that need to be put in place for them to be able to access that. So us being able to recognise that and seeing that is a massive, as you say, is a massive factor, and hopefully we're doing it right. We know, well, we know we're doing it right.
I know you do it right.
And we believe in it.
Yeah.
You know, we believe in it massively. And as we said, we thought this was something, and our approach is something that was highly lacking in a lot of places, and is needed for these children. So if we can provide all of that for them to access what we think they need to access, or ultimately we don't want the kids to be with us. We want the kids to be in education in school, because that's where they are supposed to be. So if they can come to us for, say, 12 weeks, it might be longer, and we can give them the tools to be able to access and implement them plans to give them the tools to access their education in school, then we've done something right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
From our point of view. And ultimately, that's what we're here for the children. You know, we'd be fooling ourselves if we were otherwise, because, you know, we want the best for our next generation. And it's tough at the minute out there. We all know there's a lot going on. It's tough for adults. So imagine how incredibly tough it is for children to see it. And all the other distractions, there's everything going on at the minute. It's all been blown up, and everything's in your face, and there's a lot going on for children. So we want to be able to provide the best service we can for our children to succeed in life.
I think, and just with that, the one thing I'm going to tell you is I feel the passion. I know it's true because I feel the energy of it, and I'm a big believer in the Connect 2 model talks about energy. I think that the one important thing to me about what you're doing is, if we look at off the back end of COVID, I know it's a few years ago now, but we all know about the mental health issues in young people from COVID. We know there's more family breakdowns now. We know there's more issues within society than ever before. Social media, the complexities of social media.
Massive.
And again, like I say, it just fills me with warmth, the fact knowing that there's services like you guys out there doing this, because again, a lot of things are very robotic out there.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that the services that are robotic in what I would call, I think they've got unbelievable people within them. But I just maybe don't think they are trained or developed in a way that maybe always recognise these things. Yeah, and like I say, whether it be, we've had different conversations where it might be art, it might be sport, it might be music, it might just be they need someone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these different things where I love the fact that Aspire and Thrive recognise these things and take that into account. And just back to a question for you, Dave.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'll come on forever about that, you know what I mean? But I just feel it. I genuinely do feel it.
Good, thank you. Appreciate that.
Just looking at the staff that you've brought together at Aspire and Thrive. I think you said September, October time.
End of October half term. So right at the end of last week of October, all of our colleague group came together for their sort of starting to. I mean, people talk about inductions, but I think it was about becoming part of the organisation and being the organisation. So that's kind of where we first sort of really got together and made a start.
How do you feel, just from that, how do you feel is the best way to get your ethos? So obviously, knowing your ethos and your thought process and kind of how you want to nurture, not just the young people, but your staff.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel is the best way to get your kind of ethos within your staff, and how have you gone about doing that? Because that can be difficult at times when people have got their own value base.
For sure, absolutely. I think first and foremost, I want to tell you how grateful I am for our colleague group, how appreciative I am of their ingenuity, their endeavours, and their real child focus. I think that's really important to say. I think for me, one of the things that was important is having good people around me. That's hugely beneficial. And Jack will tell anyone listening that we talk often, most days actually, about different things, and we share ideas and we sort of bounce off each other. And I think that's really important to sort of have people that are able to bring out the best version of you, because then you can be the best version of yourself for others. I think for me, when I started this journey, and I don't purport to be an entrepreneur or a business expert of any ilk, but what was really important for me was being really authentic, being really honest, sharing the passion that brought Aspire and Thrive into being, and what we believe will take it forward. And I think it was living those values every day, whether it's in how we communicate, how we present, how we respond to the things that are tricky, and modelling that not just for our colleagues but for our stakeholders and partners as well. And I think that was the starting point for us. And I think one of the things that's really important, picking up on the conversation you guys were just having about sort of isolation and independence, we talked a lot about interdependence for our children, for our young people, but for each other. Because, part of the relationship, the connection, the model that Connect2 and yourself and Dr. Liz, Jack, have enabled us to be a part of and to access and be supported to embed. Part of that is that no one's on their own. That we all rely on relationships, we all rely on support, we all rely on togetherness, and that interdependent approach of doing something as a group, doing something as an organisation, doing something as a team was really, really important. And I know that we're really fortunate at Aspire and Thrive that we've got a really great group, but we've got great teams around those groups. We've got yourself, we've got the mentoring project that we're obviously partnering with in the growth mindset. We've got Dr. Liz, who, I always say this podcast, because Dr. Liz would always say, just come in, Liz. But, she's a learning person, so I've got to work toward that. So Dr. Liz, if you're watching, I'll get there. At some point, I'll say Liz, and she'll go, what? She'll be really surprised.
We'll get told off.
Yeah, I'll get told off, so we'll see how that goes. But we've got great people around us, and that enablement and empowerment that those relationships offer to Aspire and Thrive is also a huge part of where we've come from and where we are and where we're going to.
I love that. And I see it, I feel it, and hopefully people watching will as well. Same with you, Cam. I feel the passion, and again, me and Dave have conversations, and I say to him, I love your team. You know, like it's just I love people that want to support children and want the best for children. And again, you've pulled some fantastic staff together to do that. Fantastic team. Cam, just kind of one last question. Looking at moving forward, Aspire and Thrive, the direction of it. What do you see moving forward for Aspire and Thrive? Where do you want to get into? Kind of the bigger picture.
Well, me and Dave have discussions regularly about this, and we regularly say, listen, there is nothing we don't feel we can't do or offer at any point to any school or local authority or within national region, because what we feel we do, it applies everywhere. Obviously, for the short term, we've been together. You know, we've made great strides in where we are. Obviously, we had a plan, we had a vision, we had a strategy moving forward of where we thought we could be. You know, we've had a little bit of knockbacks here and there, and we've learned from them things. And that's held us in good stead. But we took stock of it this morning, actually, me and Dave. And we you know, Dave made the point this morning, they're saying, can we just take a moment to realise where we're at? And when you strip it back and you think of it, you think, geez, we are really, really ahead of where we probably should be.
Absolutely.
Probably not where we didn't think we could be, but where we should be in terms of everything, you know, we've had to deal with. And it is growing. You know, there's some really, really positive conversations and movements with a lot of organisations and a lot of authorities. And we are continuously growing it. I mean, even over the Christmas period, you know, when we talked about the growth mindset and even having that as well to add to our repertoire, along with a load of different other programs we are continuously adding to our to what we can offer. So in terms of growth, there isn't, as I say, we are continuously looking to be better. You know what I mean? We're not going to stagnate and sit there and say we've made it. This is it. This is all we can do. We are in the mindset of growing, the benefit for our children and the benefit for everyone else that we can offer. So, yeah, there are some really, really positive movements. Obviously, some are in the early stages, some are further down the line. Some will be announced shortly. But yeah, it's really, really exciting times. And as you can tell from me and Dave, and obviously you talk to yourself and the staff we have, we're all really passionate about what we do and where we can take this. And the good thing about that is everyone's on board as well. And you know, we have conversations with our staff members and with each other on a regular basis to make sure we're all aligned on that and we're all pulling in the same direction, all on the same page, which helps. So yeah, you know, we are very excited where it can go. Is the answer to that question, and there's so much we can do.
Yeah. And just a smile on your face when you finish that.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think this is, I'm going to say well done, Dave, as well.
Thank you.
Because I actually love the fact as well that you've took some time to think about your journey. Because I say it to you all the time.
Yeah.
Reflect on where you've come from. Because often we can be hard on ourselves and we can look at the negatives, or we can look, but actually the journey in this 4 months, not even that, 3 months, phenomenal. So you have to remember that. Done a phenomenal job so far.
Appreciate that.
Well, don't get me wrong, Jack. We've had times where Dave's gone, Dave. I said, Dave, just relax a minute. Just realise where we're at. It's
I love
okay.
it. I'm glad.
Well, that's part. Obviously, that's the partnership we have, and obviously.
Well, Jack will tell you it's not just me.
And I
I
can imagine. Obviously, I haven't worked with Dave previously. Obviously, you know Dave, and I will echo everything you say about Dave. Honestly, Dave is one of not only the best human beings I've ever come across, but the best person I've possibly ever worked with in this industry. And he won't mind me saying that. I know what he's like, and he'll bat it down. But honestly, I've learned so much from Dave in the short amount of time I've known him. And hopefully I've been able to offer what I can offer to Dave as well, and we bounce off each other. But you know, I'm forever learning, and we say that to each other. You know, for me, every day is a learning day. And when I got into this industry, I didn't know a great deal about it, but you learn every day, and you can never learn enough stuff about anything. You know what I mean? That's gonna benefit you or a company or an organisation. And yeah, from my point of view, Dave is absolutely amazing what he does. And I wouldn't have as much enthusiasm as much passion as I do if it wasn't for Dave either. And being able to, and for Dave to give me the opportunity to do what I do, I'm really, really grateful for. And he knows, you know, I'll repay him, you know, fourfold. And I think it works both ways. So,
let me, I want to hammer this point home. How passionate you guys are will reflect in your care for children.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, people that walk in that can't be asked, that are a bit like, oh, we'll just do this today.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to get from your children.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
So actually, to be around people that are vibrant, that are excited, that want to go places, that will take children. And we always say we need a role model for
Of
children.
course, and that's part of the mentoring process, and
We
being that
fail.
positive role
It's
model.
okay.
Yeah.
You know, monkey see, monkey do. Sometimes, you know, you mirror the children mirror a lot of the behaviours as what's around them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Whether that's from our
absolutely
point of
right.
view or that's the home environment, and that's that's issues that present because they've seen that, they've grown up around that. So for us to be that positive role model, that safe place, and to mirror positive and really good behaviours can only be a good effect on them children we work with.
And I absolutely agree. And again, it's that sharing your failings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because role modelling to children that actually, we failed yesterday. It's
Absolutely.
okay. We bounced back.
Yeah.
Totally right. I said yesterday when I went to training, Jack and I, or perhaps just me, perhaps not Jack, I'm tying you with the same bush, mate, I apologise.
It's fine.
I said Jack and I are great people to learn from because we've made loads of mistakes and people are thinking, what on earth? What's going on here? What's today's training going to be like if they've made loads of mistakes? But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying, look, I have got some things wrong and I've learned from that, and sometimes had to learn the hard way, sometimes had to learn twice, but you learn regardless. And you know, it's a process, not an event, isn't it, right? And you know, I think if we can be vulnerable, we can be honest about that, we can take ownership and accountability around that. And sometimes, you know, I think, and Jack helps you massively in this thinking, and you know, it's been a huge, you know, friend and partner and colleague in this whole process, is that sometimes the task is be better tomorrow than you were today. And it can be really simple. It doesn't have to be grandioso leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's small steps. And one of the things, and Cam, thank you for what you said, I really appreciate it. It's incredibly kind of you. One of the things that's really important to me, and I have different views on leadership, of course, we'll probably get into that another day, but I always think for me, it's kindness. Yes, it's authenticity, yes, it's honesty, but it's kindness. It's having the empathy to think about another person and wonder what's happened to them, what's happened for them, and wonder what you can do to make their life a better place to be. And not everyone will agree with that from a leadership point of view. That's fine, I get that.
Absolutely.
There are different leadership models, there are different environments and all of that, but I think kindness, if anyone is going to have, I have the real privilege, the opportunity to work with wonderful people, to have wonderful friends, wonderful colleagues. The least I can do is repay them with kindness, and that's how I think, and that's how I operate. And you know, for me, that has brought wonderful people into my life that nurture me, help me, support me, put up with me. Especially these two guys. Yeah, mate. Oh, yeah. Don't get me started. Jeez Louise. Yeah. I think Esther, actually watching, she's incredibly patient. And every time I get sort of a harebrained idea, like this is a great idea, we ought to do this, and she's like, okay. And she's probably thinking this is the 120% great idea you've had that hasn't worked out, but she's here for it, and that's a great thing. But yeah, I think for me, kindness, surround yourself with the right people. Invest in those people, take care of them, and they'll look after you. And that's how I think. And you know, if that resonates with anyone, then wonderful.
Yeah, and just to end this, I just want to echo on. I know you both personally, but obviously from anyone watching this, just understanding your passion, your care, your nurture for children, what you want to provide for children. You're a service that I would go to every day of the week, because again, it's just I don't. There's just not enough people with a passion, and it's sometimes they're just deflated. They've been in the industry for so long, or they just don't have the passion. But actually, being around you two brings the best out of me. It's just vibrant. It's nice, and I can understand, knowing your staff, I understand how children feel when they come into your care, whether that be for an hour, whether that be for a day. So I just want to say, from an outsider's perspective, thank you for what you're doing, and I genuinely mean that, because you are going to make huge differences in children's lives, and that's what we're here to do.
Of course,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Appreciate that.
Can I thank you for your time today, both of you? I know we're going to
Thank
get
you
kicked
for
out
having
in a second,
us.
so
They'll be at the door.
You could have had another hour to be fair.
no, but I appreciate your time, both of you. Thank you for
No
coming in,
worries.
and like I say, hopefully we're going to catch up again in a few months on the journey
Yeah.
to see where it's led you
Look forward to it.
next.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks,
Jack, thank you for your time. Appreciate you sitting down with me and Cam
Yeah.
and listening to us and supporting us through the conversation. Really enjoyed it.
No worries.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.